everybody, Michael Davis here, and welcome to Bone2Pick. As we wind down 2017, I just wanted to take a quick second to wish everybody the happiest of holidays and also extend a big thank you for all your support of Hip-BoneMusic and our Bone2Pick series. As many of you know, we're trying to kind of expand the series a bit in addition to brass players and still maintaining a focus on brass. We're adding some interesting elements. This year we interviewed Eric E. Wazen, the great composer, Dennis McCrell, Dick Oates, some interesting folks to say the least. We've also, over the years, interviewed extraordinary business people who have a passion and an interest in music. And our artist for the month of December, as we close out our year, is exactly that gentleman, the great Ted Hall. Ted had tremendous success early on in his career and life, working in the world of finance in the Bay Area. In the late 1980s, he and his wife Laddie started their own winery, which has gone on to become one of the most successful wineries in the Napa Valley, Long Meadow Ranch. That also grew into an actual ranch and a farm, and now they've started, or it's been in existence for a while now, a wonderful restaurant in St. Helena called Farmstead. Had the good fortune of eating there this past summer, and it is remarkable. Definitely check it out when you're in the Napa Valley. All the while, Ted had a passion and support for the arts. He's given a tremendous amount, both financially and of his time. He was on the board of directors of the San Francisco Symphony Orchestra and an extremely important person in the development of the SF Jazz Collective and the SF Jazz Center, which is now one of the most beautiful and respected concert halls for jazz anywhere in the world. So Ted has definitely walked the walk and given back to the music community in extremely significant ways. I'm pleased to report that Ted is a passionate trombone player. He purchased a couple of the Michael Davis signature trombones this past summer for himself and his brother, so we're grateful for that. And speaking of gratitude, I think this time of year is it's a great time to reflect on our lives and what's going on right now. And Ted and Laddie just came through the Napa Sonoma Valley fires that just happened. These devastating fires took place a few weeks ago. And I'm super happy to report that their winery and residence was saved. Largely to their resourcefulness, they built fire breaks around their property through the help of their staff and their family and friends, and they were able to endure and make it through that. So we're so happy for them, and it teaches us how tenuous things are. So I think especially this time of the year, so important to be grateful for things. We are grateful for you for following our series. Thank you so much. We are going to have lots of great guests coming up in 2018, so stay tuned. We'll keep them coming. And once again, happy holidays to everyone. Hi everybody, Michael Davis here. Welcome to Bone2Pick, and we are in for an incredible treat today. As many of you know, over the years we've done interviews with incredible business people who also have an incredible passion for music, and that's exactly what we're in for today. An incredible gentleman who has created so many things on so many levels, and we're going to get a chance to pick his brain a little bit today. We're very grateful for his time. We're coming to you today from the Long Meadow Ranch here in gorgeous Napa Valley, and the winery that is a part of it. And the gentleman I'm speaking of is the great Ted Hall. Ted, thank you so much for taking time out of your
great to be here, Michael.
Insanely busy schedule.
Very happy to be here.
You know, you've done so many things over the years. You've impressive degrees early on at Princeton and Stanford. You also were an integral part of McKinsey Consulting, obviously a very hugely successful company. But really, it seems like your pride and joy is what you've created here. Maybe you can just give us an introduction to what you created here.
Well, most of the things I've done over my life have been over a long period being very persistent. So I grew up on a small farm in western Pennsylvania. My mother was an organic gardening pioneer. I suddenly found myself out of the Marine Corps, starting at Stanford, met some interesting people who were involved in the formation of Ridge Vineyards in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and was inspired by one of the founding families, David Benyon. And so I started making wine in 1971. And here I am, 46 years later, still making wine. So this is not exactly a new endeavor.
Sure.
We made wine for 17 years as large-scale amateurs while I was pursuing a career at McKinsey and also playing some music on the side. We decided to pursue it more seriously in the mid-'80s, landed here at Long Meadow Ranch in 1989, and so we've been here 28 years. We recovered this property from abandonment. It had been abandoned with prohibition, even though it was a historic property that was actually claimed from the U.S. government in 1872 by a pioneer named E.J. Church. And E.J. Church claimed 640 acres of surplus government property by claiming and promising to improve it over 5 years. Okay. And planted grapes and olives, and here we are. And in fact, this bottle of wine is our reserve Cabernet, and it is E.J. Church.
Nice.
It's actually his signature from the original deed. And what's even cooler about it, the original deed is signed E.J. Church and Ulysses S. Grant, President of the United States.
Wow, that is awesome. Well, I haven't sampled this, but in addition to being an incredible,
you will.
in addition to being an incredible businessman and entrepreneur, also one of the most generous people I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. Last night, Ted had us over to his gorgeous home, and we sampled many extraordinary wines. So thank you for that. You are a very accomplished trombonist, and now a proud owner of the Michael Davis Plus trombone,
Yes.
which I'm thrilled that you are. And we're looking forward to playing tomorrow at the San Jose Jazz Festival together. We're here today to continue our concert series, our Chairman of the Bone concert series, bringing together great trombonists like Mark Lawrence of San Francisco Symphony, Paul Welkemer, folks like yourself, Dan Gordon, Amy Sallow, who are successful in the business world, but also the passion for trombone. Last night, it was so great talking to you about all the things that you've done in music. And what I'd love to ask you, because a lot of the reason we do these interviews is for younger folks that are trying to find their way in the music business. And I know for me, it's changed so dramatically in my career. And I'm still trying to figure out, what the best moves are. And I'm sure you deal with that in your own business, but certainly you've done that in music as well. Just to give folks a little bit of his background, he was on the board of directors of San Francisco Symphony, very important member of the team starting SF Jazz, which has gone on to be such an incredible organization. And also the founder and president of Monarch Records, recorded a number of incredible artists from Cedar, Walton to Art Farmer. Really, what you've done in the music world alone would be a career. So can you just share your thoughts about how you look at things for young people in general, but specifically how you see music being a part of what somebody might want to do professionally, or at least as part of their portfolio, so to speak?
Well, I mean, it's hard, as we all know. My approach has been always to be doing music and something else. Being able to follow my passion and continue it and manage it and take advantage of opportunity when it occurred. Most of my successful music colleagues today are educators, or have other adjunct businesses, publishing or related components. I've been able to continue my interest in music, and which is, I'm sure, lengthened my life, made me healthier, happier, but always while I was doing something else. I led a 17-piece big band in San Francisco while I was a young partner at McKinsey & Company. And people thought I was crazy, but in many ways, I learned as much about human behavior, team building, keeping your ego in check, from playing in that ensemble, which actually extended my business career because of the insights I gained. The lead trombone in that band was worked the night shift at Rincon Annex in San Francisco, which is the post office, right? And it didn't matter at all that I had an MBA from Stanford and an undergraduate degree from Princeton, and I was in the trombone section. He was the man, right? And so you learn to respect other people. For me, music has been a way of life, and a approach to provides values about how to live your life, which makes you successful. I mean, it isn't all about making money. It's about living your life well, and music's an essential part of it. And I have viewed that throughout. So it's continued on to when we founded our record label, or today when I get to do occasional gigs with guys like you. It's great.
Yeah, very cool. I just want to ask you specifically about a couple of people, because I know you recorded Art Farmer and Cedar Walton, who I'm a giant fan of both of those. Do you have any memories about what those sessions were like?
Well, we recorded, I'll never forget the Art Farmer recording. We recorded him live at Stanford in Memorial Auditorium. And the producer of that, I was sort of producer with another guy named Frank Doherty, who had been Art Blakey's producer. He won 4 Grammys with Art Blakey.
Wow.
And it's this wonderful guy, Frank Doherty. And the only place we could set up our control room was in the women's bathroom. And so we had all of our gear and all of our instruments and so on. And Frank and I were laying on the floor in the women's bathroom, dialing in as Art was performing on stage. That was an amazing evening. It was Harold Land, Tootie Heath, Rufus Reed, and Art Farmer. It was just a wonderful experience.
Doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, and then we recorded Cedar at Yoshi's in Oakland, also live. Billy Higgins on the drums. I think that was also Rufus Reed on the bass. I view the recording we did is called Ironclad as the definitive piano trio recording. It's remarkable, and he opens and closes that recording with this tune Ironclad. It was great. Cedar was had played with so many people, and it was like every time he played, he was channeling, like the whole canon of jazz. It's a remarkable man in that regard, and really without any big ego, which is what I also loved about him.
Yeah, I remember when I first got on Buddy Rich's band, our first tour was in the UK for about a month, and our first week was at Ronnie Scott's.
Yes.
And so we would get to, and Cedar was there kind of on a little bit of the same tour as we were, and we got to hear him about half a dozen times, and it was just, and what a gentleman too. He was just like,
total gentleman.
I just want to be like
and
Cedar.
In fact, that was also, somehow that we either attracted them, or those were the only artists that we really wanted to work with, were people of that temperament. Billy Higgins was an amazing drummer. Every second when he was playing, he was smiling.
Yeah. There's so much joy in the way he played.
Yeah,
it's sad that he's no longer with us.
Both of them are gone.
What was the, SF Jazz has turned into such an amazing program, not just for the Bay Area, but internationally for sure, and on so many levels, education-wise, obviously the work that the ensemble does on a regular basis, touring and the work, and now the new hall here. What was that? What are your memories about the beginning?
Well, Randall Klein is was the real founder. It used to be called Jazz in the City. Actually started in San Jose, moved to San Francisco, and he had passionate vision, great skill at curating programs. He's a bass player himself, but not of the purest professional level. Frankly, this may be interesting to others, is in the early 90s, there was the initiative to try to create a sustainable platform for jazz, both in the West, but also in the East, led by Winton, Jazz at Lincoln Center.
Sure.
And at that time, there was actually a pretty major intellectual conflict between Randall and us on the West Coast, and Winton and others in the East Coast, much of which has been dissipated. But Winton had the view that the only way you could be a jazz musician, you had to know the canon. You had to know the canon, and you had to respect the canon, and the only way you could give respect to the canon is play the phrases exactly the same and in great precision. And of course, that makes some great sense. But our West Coast view was that jazz is a living medium, and that for it to continue to be an improvisational medium as it is, but for it to continue, it had to continue to evolve. And that we needed to take some responsibility for allowing that to occur. So education was an important part early on, but we took the big step to create the SF Jazz Collective, which was artists in residence, a band that was made up of 7 generally, who we commissioned to create all new work. In a subtle nod to the East, it was often in honor of a jazz great, Thelonious Monk, for example. So the formation of the SF Jazz Collective, the commitment to actually record it, and then to underwrite those guys touring, was a big part of the creative energy. The early inspiration for that was Joshua Redman, who had grown up here in the Bay Area, gone to Berkeley High School, and he and Randall had great vision and passion about that. And then Randall, but the board came to realize that the way to attract great musicians is to have a great place to play. And he was, and we were ruthless about designing a facility that would be the closest thing to the best place on the planet that we could possibly do. And so it ended up with a 600-seat auditorium with acoustics that are entirely natural. You can do an acoustic jazz performance in that hall. And I now I go to many concerts, and always the comment, right, is this is the best place I've ever played. You know, and I recently saw Chick Corea, his trio, and it was like going to church, by the way. And that was the first thing Chick said, you know, and the first time he started to speak, he said, this is the most amazing place I played. And he said, and you know, I've played everywhere.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah, so then what magically happened, and this was unexpected, was SF Jazz had a membership, but the programming was so good, the hall was so good, in the matter of 12 months, the membership of SF Jazz tripled. And it's now probably 5 times larger than it was before the hall opened, which has created this base of enthusiastic support. Almost all of those members are people that want to come to concerts, but because they also are donors, they've created a funding stream that frankly none of us expected. We thought we were going to have to raise a large endowment to be able to sustain it. And ironically, we've created an endowment, but it's the people that love jazz. So,
well, what an incredible blueprint you've given to, you know, obviously you guys created, but and Lincoln Center as well with Winton in New York, but gives a lot of inspiration to smaller communities to try to do some, maybe not on the same scope, but what a blueprint to be able to try to follow.
Well, and you know, what amazes me is this country's filled with great, talented young musicians. Absolutely. They need a place to play. They need a place to be heard. They need a place to get exposure to people that have lived a life of other things, and then they pass it on. And the SF Jazz education programs are extremely rich. And like what Winton has done in New York is really astonishing with this national high school ensemble contest, right?
Yeah.
And that's lifted the playing level of dozens and dozens and dozens of schools, even those that don't even get very far in the competition, because at least they tried.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they got to hear the master tape, if you will, and work those charts.
Yeah.
And of course, there are always charts from the canon.
Yeah, of course, of course. And the most important thing, SFJS Collective, you have to have a trombone, and you guys
Yes,
have a very good one in Rob Eubank, so
we do.
that's key. So,
We do.
Ted, you've been so generous to give us some of your time and for hosting this event today. Kind of in closing, and I know this is a little bit of a cliche question, you've had such incredible success, and you're such an inspiration to all of us on so many levels. If you had to pare it down to just a couple key things of advice that you would give to young folks, whether they're musicians or not, what if you look back and say, well, these were the key things that helped me get to where I'm at?
Well, I mean, and this is probably a cliche that in our family, right? I'll tell you two things quickly. Is in our family, the mantra is tell the truth and do the right thing. Mm-hmm. And it's funny how that works out over time. I think that the thing that has distinguished what I have been able to accomplish is today it seems like a lot, but I've been very persistent and followed my passion and just been diligent about it and not been intimidated or deterred when it was seemingly crazy or unpopular, and so especially as a musician, you know, this old thing about the 10,000 hours. Mm-hmm. You do have to do your 10,000 hours. You got to put them in. That's it. You do have to do your 10,000 hours, and it's easiest if you do them when you're in high school and in college, you know. But the truth is, I stopped performing from the mid 80s until 2011, I think, and I played a few times, and people asked me, "How in the world can you do it?" I said, "Well, I'm not sure I can, but but my more serious answer is I did my 10,000 hours, right?" And so that speaks to diligence, persistence, and hopefully you get satisfaction and joy out of it.
That's awesome. Ted, thank you so much. Thanks for everything you do for the music world and the incredible, we should tell everybody, if you're ever fortunate enough to come to St. Helena, make sure you come to Long Meadow Ranch. It's an incredible, incredible place. So thank you, Ted Hall. I hope you guys got as much out of hearing Ted talk as I did, and we'll catch y'all next time on Bone2Pick.